so many nuggets of wisdom that you shared there. The first one being that parallel between your physical health, right? I've done speeches for youth mental health education for many years. I mentioned Eric Windle, I mentioned Jack.org. I was going into high schools and universities since 2017 to talk to youth about mental health education. We always describe a spectrum for your mental health, right? The conversation we have is not do you have mental health or not. It's where are you on the spectrum at any given moment. Like we've talked about on this podcast, which is honoring where you are in your journey. You might be from healthy, you might be stressed, you might be struggling, you might be in crisis. And depending on where you are, you could take advantage of different resources available to you. So like as an example, when you're healthy and stressed, that's when you would typically practice self-care, like the things that you would do that make you feel good and empowered and in flow, like you're talking about, like meditation, exercise, sleeping well, things of that nature. When you start dipping into this realm of struggling, stress and struggling is where peer support is really useful. Having dialogue is really useful. Having a professional like a therapist is really useful, because that would be like equivalent of, like you said, like breaking my arm. I would never go back to my apartment and try to like do surgery on my own arm, brace it up, fix it, and then walk back into the world. That wouldn't work that way, because there's no stigma with our physical health.
Right. And I do want to say too, when you say that, because sometimes that also gets misconstrued when it comes from the peer support lens of I'm not a professional, so hands off. One thing that we educate, like the brand works to educate everybody on, is to say the same thing as that broken arm metaphor. The same thing you would do as a friend. I can be here for you before, during, and after as a peer. Anything you need to do with professionals, I can be here before, during, and after. You're not alone, and I will sit beside you.
I love that.
Sit on speaker. It's so important to put that part in there, because we also don't want this like hands-off isolation thing, right? Because it's like leave it to the professionals, but also just the same, normalize it the same way you would, like we're talking about with your physical health in any other way. Pre-COVID, of course, someone would come to the hospital with you, would sit there, would wait, would help you with the things that you don't need to be doing. Like all of that still exists there. And I also love what you're saying too, because I've had the privilege of interviewing hundreds of men through the app. And one thing that is so interesting is when I say, like, tell me about your mental health journey, is a lot of men, especially, men who are maybe 10 years older than me and on, will say, well, mental health really started for me in college, or mental health really started for me after my divorce, or when my child passed, or, and you're kind of like, when did your physical health start? Like, it's like, but that's really the way that men were taught to think about it, that it's something that you have and somehow it's inherently negative. And, I don't need to be a sociologist, just by talking to men all the time, I can tell you that, that is something that seems to be inherent, this idea that mental health is a negative thing that needs to be tended to if something is wrong with you. And it makes no sense, because it's the same as physical health. Mental health would be you are healthy. Mental health would be you are in flow because you're a part of that process. But somehow it seems like, it's like mental unhealth is almost what, or whatever it would be, is how they perceive it.
Yo, Black and the Blue, and podcast teaser there for you. Goddamn, excited about this episode. Big fan of this episode. That was just such a small component of a 90-minute conversation about mental health and about grief and about how you are not alone. And this conversation that we just took out of there was off the back of multiple stories that Addison shares about his personal lived experience with mental health and with the mental health of those around him, and suicide and loss and overcoming adversity and finding meaning and finding purpose inside of those challenges. And so this was just a quick note on how we have a mental health spectrum. The question isn't, do you have mental health or not? You do have mental health. It's happening right now. It's happened your whole life. And now with this show, we're helping you become more aware and more conscious of, am I healthy? Am I stressed? Am I struggling? Am I in crisis? And then giving you the tools that you need to be able to take that information and ask for help if needed, find community if needed, or be there for someone in your life. So fired up about this episode. Like I said, you could check out the episode anywhere you listen to podcasts by searching Project Circle Up. And if you like the show, subscribe to the show, share it with a friend. It makes a difference. It helps us out. And again, just coming at you with more information, more content, more stories about how you are not alone in your struggle. Struggle, as Addison says, makes you human. So we love you. Till next time, don't man up, circle up. And if you're interested to check out the Tether app, you can go to tether.men online, or you can check out Addison's Instagram or Tether's Instagram on Instagram. Love y'all. See you soon. Don't man up. Circle up.